Hi, I'm Caroline, and whilst in the past I'd normally be found spending my school holidays trotting the globe, 2020 has been about exploring my own backyard, and for the summer this has meant a glorious road trip around the highlands and islands of Scotland. So far in this series I've summited Ben Nevis, the highest peak in the UK, done plenty of hiking and sightseeing on the Isle of Skye, and explored the Assynt region's sea life, hiking opportunities and stunning beaches. In today's episode, I'll be exploring parts of the wonderful, wild and windswept Isle of Harris. But I don't know if we just got a little bit spoilt the other day having the sunshine at the other white sand beach. I think I'd expected it to be a little bit more. Good morning and welcome to the Isle of Harris. Yesterday we took a ferryboat ride from the mainland of Scotland in Ullapool across over to Stornoway in Lewis. Lewis is part of the same landmass that Harris is on, but they are actually classed as two separate islands, even though technically speaking it's only the one. This morning we drove from Stornoway in Lewis down to Harris. And Lewis is really quite flat, and as soon as you get to Harris you've got these hills that just come out of nowhere, and the scenery really changes. We've come along to Luskentyre Beach, which has been voted the UK's best beach. We are perhaps here on not the best of days. It is incredibly overcast at the moment, but despite the cloud, it's crazy just how turquoise the water looks. It is very pretty, but naturally, being British, I would have loved it if the sun had been out and we were here on a slightly sunnier day. The idea is today we're going to do a few beachy walks and we're going to go and eat some seafood and just see what Harris has got to offer. I realise I've not even addressed yet the road that we took to get down to Luskentyre Beach. Once you cross over onto the Isle of Harris, there is a road called the Golden Road, and it's ingrained really deeply with tiny locks and really small hamlets. And it was called the Golden Road because of the huge cost that the government or the local council had to pay in order to be able to build the road. For much of history, the people who lived in the tiny cottages along this stretch of coastline, they were only able to get around by using boats, but this road twists and turns and it goes up and down, and every turn that you go through, it's just absolutely stunning. These tiny locks, tiny cottages, and just the amount of rocks that are on such a low level to the coast was spectacular. It's like nothing else that we've seen here in Scotland. Surprise, surprise, guess what? The rain has now set in. The weather forecast said today that there was going to be maybe a slight shower at about 3 3 o'clock this afternoon and it's just coming up to midday, and we have been caught out in so many showers already whilst driving down to Harris. I'm at the point where I just don't trust the Scottish weather forecast anymore. And then 5 minutes later, the rain has stopped and it's brightened up again. Go figure. We have walked the length now of Luskentyre Beach all the way around the corner and started to go up as though we're following the river. And now we're just trying to find, I think there's supposed to be like a little bridge that will get us off of the beach back up onto the main road where we can circle back to the car, because it's getting up to lunchtime now. I'm starting to get a little bit hungry and we want to make sure that we can make it down to, I think it's like a food truck, or it might be like a food shed or shack or something like that. But my understanding is they serve whatever the fishermen have brought in from their catch this morning, and once it's gone, it's gone. So we don't want to be getting there too late because we didn't actually bring any food with us as a backup. So we're gonna hop skip to it and hopefully get there before it's all sold out. You didn't tell me that it was wobbly. There's a few builders building the house just behind me, and I genuinely believe that right now they have got the most stunning view in the world from their workplace. When I first turned up to Luskentyre Beach, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Just a short walk from the car park to the opening out onto the beach, it didn't take my breath away quite as much as Teampaill Beach did a few days ago back on the mainland. And I think in part that was because of how sunny it was when we first arrived there. But I do actually now have to take back my earlier comments. Now that we've walked along the beach and we've got up to the point where you can see the river estuary and where it meets the sea, I think when you put all of those together, it does knock the socks off of any of the other beaches that we've visited so far. The estuary is beautiful and the river meanders all the way along, but instead of it being grassy banks or muddy banks either side of the meandering river, it's still the white sand, and so it's like nothing I think I've ever seen anywhere in the world before, let alone somewhere within the UK. So I think I take it back. I think that this beach really is worth all of the hype. I'm just a little bit sad that we've not been able to come on a sunnier day. It's really, really beautiful, especially coming along here where we've just completely escaped all of the other crowds of people. We've got this to ourselves now. At the seafood shack for what felt like ages, but we were mildly entertained by a family who got a little bit attacked by the local chickens, I think because they chose to sit and eat outside. I think the chickens have gotten used to the fact that people sometimes feed them, which is why we've hopped back in the car, because we don't want the same thing to happen. I have gone with these fish goujons, which seems to have come with some seaweed, some salad and some lime as well. So I'm going to get tucked in before it starts going cold. So fork. What's the best way to do this? Fork, you're just eating potatoes at the moment, aren't you? Yep. Okay, I'm going to go with the fingers for this. Yeah. That is delicious, and we stood and watched him, and he's made absolutely everything to order, and he was cutting the fish at the back and then he's dipped it in the batter and fried it all fresh. That is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to keep on going with this. Okay, so up next is just some roast potatoes, but they've put in seaweed as well with it just to try and add a little bit of flavour to it. And that's a spoon, that's no good, I need the fork. But what I'm really loving about what's in here is that because it's come out of the same deep fat fryer as where the fish is being cooked, we've got these bits of fish batter. I'm going to go in first of all for a roasty. That is seasoned beautifully, and the seaweed really adds to the flavour as well. I'm going to go for a little bit of the batter that's probably come off of some of the fish, like the goujons. Oh, very calorific, I'm sure, but that is delightful. One more to go after this, the seafood chowder, but I'm going to go with the potatoes for a little bit more before I dig in on the soup. Okay, and then the last thing that we have gone for is a seafood chowder. Ooh, which is not at all what I was expecting. So I think it must have like a tomato base to it. I was expecting it to be white, I suppose a little bit like clam chowder, quite potato based, but this looks to be definitely tomato based. It didn't say anything about what was in it, it just simply said seafood chowder. I think it's got definitely some kind of flaky white fish. No, I really can't tell just from sight. I think we're gonna have to start munching on it. Oh, that is really good. And that definitely tastes a lot healthier as well than the other two things that I've been having, which have been very much deep fat fried, as delicious as they were. This is great, but I really don't know what's in it, other than some flaky white fish. Well, that has to be my favourite meal of the trip out so far. It was really interesting talking to the guy who owns the place. He was saying that his menu does indeed change every single day, and that the lobster trawlers are about to head back out to go and bring in their traps that they've already set, and they usually get back in at about 11 o'clock in the evening. So he's going to be reaching out to them around that time tonight in the hope that he'll be able to have lobster tomorrow. The other thing that was really interesting is just hearing him talk about how the tourists this year, in comparison to previous years, apparently this area is very popular with Canadians and Americans, and naturally there's none here at the moment, and he's seen a big increase in the amount of British tourists. He also went on to say that he feels like he's a lot busier because more people are going to him for food because they're still very unsure about dining in and sitting in a restaurant versus doing that kind of takeout food. And so he was saying that there might be some people at the back of the queue who walk away a little bit disappointed. Whilst we were in the queue, I think it was two families in front of us came over and rubbed off the langoustines and scallops from the blackboard, so that decision was taken away from us because, as I'd said earlier, it is a case of whatever the fishermen bring in. The fishing boats, there aren't as many going out at the moment, again due to COVID-19, and so that means there isn't as much seafood coming back as well, so he's just got that bit more competition to try and get hold of the stuff, so he was running out quicker and he's got more customers as well. So it's just a crazy world that we're living in at the moment. So after what was an amazing lunch, we've decided that we definitely need to come for a walk because otherwise I'm probably about to fall into a food coma. So we've just come a little bit along the road from where Sam's food shack was to a place that I can't pronounce. It's something like Taobh Tuath. We really aren't 100% certain if we're in the right place. Reading the definition or the description of the walk that we're supposed to be doing, it talks about how you will go through something like a or a machair. We think it might be pronounced machair if it's again based on Gaelic. The land is really well drained, which obviously was a big thumbs up for me because I was starting to get a little bit sick and tired of all of the bogginess that we were having to walk through. And the reason why it is so well drained is because the wind blows the sand in off of the beaches, which then goes over the peat bog, and obviously it helps to drain the water away. But because of that, it also means that it's really fertile as well. So we're obviously walking along a track at the moment, but either side we've got these beautiful meadows with all of these wildflowers in them, and that is supposed to attract quite a lot of bird life, but we're not really seeing many birds at the moment. But we're only a couple of minutes into this walk, so we'll keep on wandering, and I'm hoping that it might bring us out into quite a nice white sand beach as well. beach that we just came up off of seems spectacular to me. And okay, it's got a little bit of seaweed on it, but I just can't help but feel like if we were somewhere a little bit more heavily populated, it would be really busy down there. And just to put into perspective, not only did we see some sheep on the beach, but as we were walking along, I spotted a dead sheep head. And obviously something's come along. We're assuming probably an eagle because they have quite a few of those on the Isle of Harris, and has obviously fed off of it. That probably puts into perspective how long that dead sheep has been down there for, as to just how unused this beach is. I think that if we had any beaches that beautiful near London within a few hours driving distance, that would have been reported so quickly and someone would have come along and cleared it up. I just don't think anyone really comes along here. I'm loving this. It's just so removed from everything that I'm used to on a day-to-day life back home. Behind us, and there's one of the traditional highland cows right there on the edge of the trail. We do actually need to walk past this one in order to be able to progress with our trail, so I think we're just going to approach it with caution, because the horns, as cool as they do look, they also look a little bit scary if it's feeling threatened by us. I don't know if they're dangerous. I'm going to assume that they are, because it's always best to err on the side of caution. That we've been walking along has brought us up to this, which was a chapel believed to have been used in either the 15th or the 16th century, and I can't believe that that many thousand years ago we still have a structure today where the wall height is pretty much up to where it would have been, and it's still got both of its gables intact. And obviously on the edge of this bay, it's an absolutely stunning place for it to look out onto. Archaeologists who've come along to this site have discovered, actually you can probably see like the stones that are underneath. They believe that there's probably a broch here. We went to one a couple of days ago back on the mainland. I think it was a much smaller one that was used as a defence method, but the one here, I believe the archaeologists think could have potentially been, if not 2, maybe even 3 stories tall, with in a sort of circular staircase running around the inside of it. They're predicting that some of the rocks that came from that would have been used to build the church and maybe some other properties in the nearby area. Luskentyre Beach as being this whole space, including this estuary coming down. I can understand why it does have the award of being Britain's best beach, but I think where we were earlier on today, sort of around that bend, it was nice, but this, to me, this is the spectacular shot, and I do think this is absolutely stunning. It is like nowhere I've ever really been before. Like, I've seen the white beaches, I've seen white beaches with turquoise water, but not with the bright green grass and like the mountains and the moody weather. It's just something so different to anything experienced before. It is spectacular, and just without, I suppose, like the grossness that I often feel at the seaside with like the sweat and the sunscreen and the bug spray and then the sea salt, and it all just gets a bit too much. But I don't know, for some reason here, it just being by the sea is absolutely wonderful. Over the next few episodes, I'll be exploring more of the Outer Hebrides, concentrating on the Isle of Lewis. I'll go on some coastal walks, take to the waters in search of marine life, learn about the island's history, and take a tour of a wonderfully tiny distillery, which will be hilariously followed by trying the stuff for the first time, one not to be missed. If you've not done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join me in my Scottish adventures.